Hey guys. So, Panaconi, am I right? It's crazy and there's a lot to talk about, so I will share my thoughts and theories. Firstly, let's discuss the characters who have been invited to Panaconi. Seriously, everyone here seems like a mastermind one way or the other that basically knows what's going on and are using the events to forward the goals of their own faction. First is Aventurine, one of the 10 Stonehearts of the IPC. We already got an idea of why he's here in an earlier Belobog quest, when Topaz was calling him. They stated that the IPC hasn't been able to have business contact with the family since they have been closed off for so long, and they're very difficult to deal with. But there has recently been a business opportunity, which is most likely the invite. So either the IPC has fallen for the family's trick via the invite, or they know that the invite might be a trick and are going there for more than just a business deal. Also, there's been a bit of emphasis on his eyes, both by how they kind of glow in cutscenes and by sparkle. We know that his eyes are a trait of Sigonians, but it looks pretty similar to that sort of energy behind Jipe's head, or the memory water. So maybe Sigonia 4 has been influenced by Jipe as well. It also kind of looks like the goo coming from Mythos, the Enigmata. Sparkle states the Sigonians are renowned throughout the universe for being liars and manipulators, which sounds a lot like the history fictionologists and the Riddlers. So maybe Sigonia 4 was influenced by Mythos instead. Anyway, next is Sparkle, a masked fool. Firstly, she's not racist, let's just get that out of the way. She never said that she dislikes Sigonians or that all Sigonians are liars and manipulators. She said that Sigonians are known to be liars and manipulators, and that Aventurine was affirming that fact because he was being shady. She even complimented his eyes, which are a staple of the Sigonians. Also, she's not a bad person for disguising herself as Robin. How could she have known that Robin had died? She may have had access to the real dreamscape, but she might not have found Robin. She definitely didn't know, because Sunday had to reveal to her that Robin was dead. She also could have known, but didn't know that Sunday knew, so she wasn't trying to rub it in his face. Why would she disguise herself as Robin to trick Sunday if she knew that Sunday knew she was dead? As for the crime she committed in the companion quest, yeah, she's guilty for that. She straight up beat a guy with a giant hammer. They were in the dreamscape, so the guy was fine, but still. I'm not saying Sparkle is a great person. She isn't a super terrible person, though. She's kind of bad, though. Anyway, enough of the personality analysis. We don't really know why she's here. She is ready to expose the lies of the family and show the trailblazer the true dreamscape, and in her interactions in both the main quest and the companion quest, she is trying to get ready for something. She also tries to get Black Swan to join her. She seems to be really friendly to her, but probably doesn't have any actual admiration for her. She basically says so at the end of the companion quest. She needs Black Swan because she's a memo keeper and can navigate the dreamscape easily. This would definitely help her with her goal. She doesn't trust Aventurine because she knows he's most likely trying to trick her, but doesn't seem to hate him, maybe because their personalities are similar. Other than that, we don't know much, but she definitely isn't in Panaconi just for fun. Next is Sampo. The reason for his appearance in Panaconi is already clear, and there isn't much to talk about regarding Panaconi. I'm just talking about him now since I just talked about Sparkle. In the companion quest, it's revealed that Sampo is a masked fool, which everyone had been theorizing ever since 1.0 due to the weird scene at the end of the Trailblazer quest in Belobog. Either that or he was a stellaron hunter, but everyone was leaning towards him being a masked fool. Anyway, he's in Panaconi because he needs his mask back from Sparkle. I was always wondering where his mask was if he was a masked fool. I thought he wasn't wearing his mask because he wanted to hide the fact that he was a masked fool, and he clearly still is. But he didn't have the mask with him at the time. He clearly considers Yarlio 6 important to him, and will side with them in case of any danger. He did so in the first Trailblazer quest. Even though he's a masked fool, probably from another planet, he considers Yarlio 6 a home to him. Now, what is the catastrophe that's coming to Yarlio 6 mentioned by Sparkle? Most likely the Antimatter Legion. They were frozen by the Eternal Freeze 700 years ago, and now that the stellaron has been sealed, the Eternal Freeze might start to subside, which would thaw out the frozen Antimatter Legion members. There could also be a problem with the stellaron itself. When Kakole supposedly died, we just saw her body disappear, not disintegrate or anything like that. So she might possibly be trapped inside the stellaron. She might even become a playable character. I'm saying this because it's weird how she has a design similar to a playable character, and even has a boss form similar to other bosses who are playable characters, so Cocolia might return. The crisis could be something else, though. Anyway, now that Sampo has his mask back, we'll probably get a 5-star version of him, similar to Don Hong in Bybit or Lune. I'm not sure what the gameplay will be like, but it might revolve around follow-up attacks, since the Path of Elation in Simulated Universe works with follow-up attacks, and Sampo right now as a 4-star doesn't have a follow-up attack. Next person is Black Swan, a memo keeper of the Garden of Recollection. Her agenda seems to be figure out and record everything, which is her job as a memo keeper, and just solve the problem going on. She does seem to want to help us, but probably as a second agenda. She turned down Sparkle's offer to work together because she wants to work with someone else. The person she was referring to is probably the Trailblazer. She helped them a lot, and they probably attract a lot of attention to the Garden of Recollection, due to their deeds and how strange they are. One weird thing I noticed was that, during our first fight with something unto death, Black Swan makes a portal for the Trailblazer and Firefly to escape the dreamscape, but we never see the rest of the fight. The next thing we see is the Trailblazer and Black Swan of the real world. Something unto death must have escaped, because we see it later when it kills Firefly. What had happened during that fight? Did Black Swan let something unto death escape because she needs it, maybe? There are quite a few things to consider with Black Swan. Lastly is Acheron. She is supposedly an emanator, but of who? People have been thinking she's an emanator of nihility, and if that is the case, why would she bring disaster wherever she goes, like Aventurine says, if nihility is thinking nothing matters? And 9 doesn't even do much in general. She is also thought to be an emanator of destruction, but that doesn't make sense, since she fought the Annihilation Gang, who support destruction. Nanook may not accept them, but he probably wouldn't want to get rid of them since they further his goal. Also, if they were both on the side of destruction, they could just work together and go to Penacony together. She is also thought to be an emanator of finality, since she brings disaster wherever she goes, but that doesn't make sense, because in Honkai Impact 3rd, Raiden Mei, the version of Acheron in that game, was the Hersher of Lightning, while one of the other main characters, Kiana, became the Hersher of Finality, so it wouldn't make sense for Acheron to be connected to Finality. She's most likely an emanator of nihility and brings disaster for some other reason. Or maybe it is because she's an emanator. Anyway, we probably can't completely trust her, because if you ask her why she didn't draw her sword against something unto death, she'll try to change the subject. Also, you can't refuse her help. If you try to, you'll get that red text as a dialogue option accepting her help. She most likely has some other agenda. Now for some characters native to Penacony. First is Misha. Misha's name is a nickname for Mikai, the name we heard about in Child's Dream. Also, no one seems to notice Misha's existence other than the Trailblazer and Clocky, like he's not real. His pupils are also keyholes, which is weird. We see someone in a memory cutscene in A Child's Dream. He's definitely connected to the Clockmaker, but I'm not sure how. There's also Gallagher, who's suspicious during our encounter with him. He tells the other Bloodhounds that Firefly isn't the stowaway, by saying, "Does she really look like the stowaway?" multiple times, like he's trying to convince them or make them convince themselves Firefly isn't the stowaway. He also says that the person they were looking for was described as a silver-haired lad. The description might have been gender neutral, but Gallagher tries to spin it as referring to a male. He might have been right about there being a male stowaway, or he's trying not to get Firefly caught for some reason. Okay, there's no way Ifrit is dead. He got a whole quest teasing him. He and the Annihilation Gang got a trailer about them, and then he supposedly got killed off-screen. He most likely teleported via the Phase Flame. Hoyoverse most likely pulled a reverse Senora. Raiden Shogun A in Genshin Impact killed Senora at the end of a quest, while Acheron, the A counterpart of Honkai Star Rail, killed Ifrit at the beginning of the quest. We had Senora's artifact set since the beginning of the game before she died. We got Ifrit's relic set the most recent patch after he died. Senora died on screen in a cutscene. Ifrit died off screen earlier. They're trying to make it seem like this is a Senora situation, but it might be the opposite due to circumstantial evidence. That's not to say that Senora won't come back. She might come back in Natlin, Snezhnaya, or even Conria. So, Firefly is interesting. She is most likely a stellaron hunter and Sam, but Sam has his own AI consciousness. They might be here for a stellaron, since Calyxes, Caverns of Corrosion, and Boss Shades are in Penacony, and Stagnant Shadows are in Penacony, and they only appeared because of stellaron, but I'm not sure. Also, there's something weird about her death scene. When the Trailblazer caught Firefly, you can see a little speck of light floating away from her body. So she's most likely fine, since that was probably her spirit going back to Sam. Though, if we're able to save Robin as well as other possible victims, Firefly's death might have been interrupted and might cause some problems with her illness or something. Also, her death is different from Robin's, since she splashed into the dream liquid, while Robin turned into bubbles. Anyway, Sam probably didn't abandon Firefly, he just made her stay back while he went on ahead. Anyway, now for some big theorizing about the plot. The family planned all of this. Their secret isn't that the dreamscape isn't perfect and that there are dangers. All the threats are intentional. Firstly, what are the memory zone memes? Well, one of them basically explains everything. The all-seer enemy, the floating orb one. Only one character is known to have all-seeing eyes, the Eon Enna, the Order. Gype the Harmony absorbed them, however, and most likely gained their power and their all-seeing eyes. So the memory zone memes are manifestations of Gype's power, and the family worships Gype. So the family most likely let this happen. Another clue is this weird dream ticker in the Reverie dreamscape, which gives you a tape that is a recording detailing some people going to Penacony, being shown around by Clocky while he advertises Soulglad, and then being asked to give out their blood. So yeah, the family is apparently luring people to Penacony, and then taking their blood or something. We know this interaction is especially important, since this is the only time we see the red text other than when we talk to Acheron. Now I can figure out exactly what they're doing. It all has to do with the dream water, because this whole thing is a big Genshin Impact reference. The dream water looks a lot like primordial seawater, and has a few similarities. They both float, can put people's consciousness in sort of dream worlds, and can dissolve people into it. There's even a connection with whales. The dream water will sometimes take the shape of whales, and when you get the loading screen to go in and out of the dreamscape, you only see whales, no other sea life. This all connects to the all-devouring narwhal, who consumed the primordial seawater and is even most likely connected to it, since its body looks like primordial seawater. Now, I know that in Genshin, Fontanian people only dissolved from primordial seawater because they were oceanids, but this time it's people's consciousness. Also, if all life came from the primordial sea, or everything in general, it could probably dissolve anything given the right circumstances. Or it could dissolve anything because it's probably some sort of primordial chaotic energy, like in many mythologies. I talked about that in another video I made on a prediction video for Genshin Impact 4.2 update, which was basically wrong, so I hope I get this one right. Anyway, there are even more connections to Fontaine's story. Firstly, there's the fact that primordial seawater is called the lifeblood of people. So that thing about the family taking people's blood in the tape might mean they're trying to get dream water from people. They did that from people like Stanley and the Genius Society member. Also, there was a scientist named Renee in Genshin Impact who built a clock that, through his calculations, could predict the apocalypse, which is when the all-devouring narwhal would come and the primordial sea and abyss would rise. Then we have Clocky, and the Trailblazer notes how ominous Clocky being a clock is when they first see the statue of him. So Clocky might be counting down to the apocalypse in Star Rail. In Genshin, there was also Fanta, a soda that looked similar to Soulglad, and were both featured in the Archon and Trailblazer quests, respectively. And while Fanta didn't have much impact on the story, Soulglad might. The name Soulglad might actually be literal, well, the soul part anyway, since it was mentioned in the creepy tape alongside the collecting blood phrase. Soulglad might be made up of dream/primordial seawater, and would be the lifeblood that makes up people. In Genshin, there is another drink called Synth, which was made of diluted primordial seawater. So Soulglad might be both a Fanta and Synth equivalent. Now I think I know what the family is trying to do. Since they were the ones who most likely set the memory zone memes loose, and got them to turn both Firefly's and Robin's consciousnesses into dream water, they're probably trying to turn everyone's consciousness into the dream water. In the data log for the family, it says that they believe that the universe will become one harmonious entity with no disagreements. This is how they are trying to achieve it, by turning everyone into dream water and making them into one being, a hive mind with no conflict, but also no separate bodies, individuality, or free will. Renee and Genshin try to do something similar, dissolve everyone so they could survive the apocalypse. The Renee equivalent of Sawrail is most likely the Clockmaker, the one who's behind the Dreamwater dissolving plan, and the maker of Clocky, who can mess with people's minds that probably would help the clockmaker with his mind-dissolving plans, and counts down to when it happens. It's unclear whether Kai is the clockmaker, but if he isn't, then the whole creepy sequence in a child's dream would make sense with my theory. Mikai was most likely a sick or dying child who had a friend who was close to him, but then was chastised by the other kids for something, possibly not joining them, which is probably the family. This sequence might be the origin of the clockmaker making his cult. One more thing I want to talk about is Sunday's speech. Now, Sunday may not know what the family is really planning, since he was definitely surprised that Robin was killed by something unto death, and definitely didn't even know about the memes. He stated that the threat, most likely the meme, will be defeated, and that he is doing this for the watchmaker. So the family most likely tricked Sunday into thinking that they have a plan to stop all this, but they actually caused it. Or that actually is their plan, and my theory is wrong. Anyway, one more thing I want to briefly talk about is the alternate/fake ending in Penacony, where you refuse Aventurin's offer and leave through the door behind Black Swan. You get a black screen with some text saying you had fun at the Charmony Festival. There's also a credit sequence saying that all the characters were played by ... except for Sparkle, who plays herself. We also see that the script supervisor is Elio. We got a similar fake ending in the space station, where you choose to stay at the space station, and Elio is also the script supervisor. When you get these endings and reload the game, you can't get the ending again. Since these scenarios are shown as if they were a movie, they are obviously fabricated. What is interesting though is that Elio is the script supervisor, not writer. The Trailblazer is the one who wrote the script when they made those choices, and then Elio was the script supervisor because he made a script that the Trailblazer didn't follow. It's possible that Elio was able to rewrite Fate. That's why he's the script supervisor. He fixed the script. That's also why we exit the game and reload to the place before we made the choice to get that ending. Elio possibly rewrote Destiny somehow. That's also why we can't get the fake ending again and have to go for the true ending. Elio stops you from getting that ending again. Anyway, that's all I have for right now. See you.